What do we do after therapy instead of taking time to chill and do self-care? We film a recommendation video about queer books instead, apparently. Hello everyone, it's Meg. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be recommending some LGBTQ plus books, LGBTQIA plus books, because it is Pride Month, it is June. I am so excited for another Pride Month. I mean, Pride should happen all year round, and as a side note, it is very important to read queer books all year round, not just during Pride Month. However, Pride Month is always a great excuse to make a recommendations video. So I have 8 books that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. I've tried to go for some recommendations that maybe aren't as popular or haven't seen as many people talk about, at least here on BookTube. And yeah, some of these are definitely personal favourites and some that are very special to me. So I really hope you guys enjoy hearing about some maybe slightly lesser known queer fiction, and I think I've got one non-fiction as well, so that is very exciting. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So before I get into the actual pile of books that I'm going to recommend, I quickly want to recommend a book I'm currently reading, even though I've not finished it, because I think this book deserves so much hype, and that is All the Young Men by Ruth Coker Burks and Kevin Carr O'Leary. I'm currently reading this, and I've been reading it throughout a couple of vlogs which will be up either before or after this video. And yeah, like I said, I've not finished this yet, but I just quickly wanted to recommend this. This is a memoir about Ruth Coker Burks, and it is about her experience being an AIDS activist during the 80s and 90s in the southern part of North America. And this is just such an incredible book. Ruth is an incredible person. This book goes through her experience of living in a southern town in a very Christian area with people who genuinely don't like the gays. And it's about how she became an AIDS activist, her journey through that, about the people she meets and the friendships that she has and creates throughout it. It's also about her being a single mother and tackling relationships and raising a young daughter, and obviously how Ruth's activism affects her daughter Alison as well, and kind of her outlook on life. And it's just such a gorgeous, gorgeous, very special memoir. And like I said, I've not finished it. I am over halfway through, so I've got less than 100 pages. But I did quickly want to recommend, because this is such an important time in history, and I haven't heard many people talk about this. I did get this from Kira for a present a couple of years ago, and her and Em are the only people I've ever seen talk about this book. So if you want a memoir to read during Pride Month or any time of the year, especially if it's about the AIDS epidemic, I highly recommend this book. It is absolutely stunning, and yeah, I cannot wait to finish it. So I'm going to go in a random order, just in the pile that I have in front of me. So the first book that I have is Stripped by Momo Chaviz. Some of you guys may know Momo from here in the book community. I have known who Momo is for quite a while now, and this is her debut novel, which came out last year, and you can't currently get it at the moment because I believe that she has been signed with a book agent, because she self-published this, and like I said, now it's gone to traditional publishing, which is so exciting, so happy for her. But this book is about the strip and club community, and pole dancing and all that sort of thing. And this is set in Australia. I don't read many Australian books, so it's really nice to read a book set in Australia. It's about our main character called Annie, and she hasn't had the best childhood growing up, so she currently lives on her own and works several jobs, and it's her dream to go and live and study in London. And one day Ali and her friend start working in the red light district, and it is basically about their experiences being strippers and what it's like to work in a club, and also tackle like friendships and relationships and other ambitions with it. And it's such an interesting book. I've never read a book to do with like strippers or the red light district before, so it's really interesting to learn and be educated more about it, and also how like the stripper and like that sort of club community is integrated in with the LGBTQ plus community. And our main character Annie is bi, and her best friend, who name I cannot remember off the top of my head, she is aromantic and asexual. And I love the fact that in this book they have an ace aero side character who works in a strip club. Because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about like asexual and aromantic people when it comes to things like pole dancing and sex workers and kind of all that sort of thing. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of like misunderstanding and lack of knowledge around kind of being ace or aero and maybe being a part of those communities. It's something that a lot of people aren't aware of or don't have a lot of education on. But yes, really fun book, and like I said, you can't buy this at the moment, but hopefully you will be able to soon. That would be so exciting. But if you have got a copy and you haven't read it yet, I definitely recommend picking it up. Next up we have Arden Grey by Ray Stove. I don't think that's actually how you pronounce their last name. I'm not sure, I'm so sorry. This is a book I read a couple of years ago. I'd never heard of it, and then when I found out what, like, you know, the synopsis and the fact that our main character does film photography, I was sold. So this book is about our main character Arden Grey. She's 16 years old, and her family is going through a bit of a rough patch because her mother recently left the family, and her brother and dad don't really talk about it, and her best friend recently has entered a relationship which might not be so healthy and does put a little bit of strain on their friendship. And this is basically just a coming of age story about our main character Arden kind of being more comfortable in her sexuality. She is asexual and she also likes girls, and there's also trans representation and bi representation in here as well. Obviously it's amazing having like photography, especially film photography, in this book. As somebody who is a photographer and study photography, I really love seeing Arden's creative process and her reason behind the photos that she takes, and it's just a very like beautiful, very raw story. This is a YA, but I feel like it is, you know, a great book for so many people to read. And it also does deal with having a queer parent as well, or like a parent kind of coming out to you as queer, which might be slightly spoilery, but I feel like it's something that isn't always discussed, about having parents that, you know, come out instead of just, you know, already being out and having, you know, having a queer parent all your life. So to have maybe be in your teens and have you know, a parent come out to you, I think that is something that definitely needs to be discussed more in literature and in the world in general. Next up we have Boy Queen by George Lester. Again, some of you guys may know George from Instagram. He is also the drag queen, I think it's called That Girl, I'm That Girl, on Instagram, and I follow both of his accounts, his drag account and his personal account. And I did read this a few years ago now. This book came out during COVID in 2020, so I did read this quite a while ago, but I've never read that many books with drag in it. And this again is a YA coming of age story about our main character called Robin, who doesn't get into drama school on his first attempt, unfortunately. So it's about him kind of coming of age, kind of deciding what he wants to do in this gap before he starts reapplying to drama school again. And it's also about him discovering drag and relationships, and it is such a fun, beautiful story. I love kind of how our main character gets taken under the wing by their drag mother, and kind of you get a little sneak peek behind the scenes of what it goes into making a drag queen and becoming a drag queen, which is so interesting as somebody who loves drag and has a, yes, it's a very special thing to me, drag. So I absolutely adored this, and if you like drag, I definitely recommend picking this up. Next is more of an author recommendation, and that is Lex Croucher. I feel like in a few of my recommendation videos I do have another one coming after this video, I believe. I have a summer recommendations video which I think I did include Lex, and I did include them in my historical fiction recommendation video, which you can check out if you haven't already. But Lex is such an incredible author. Infamous is my personal favourite. They include so much queer representation, and they just write such fun, like Regency, or mostly Regency at any rate, apart from Gwen and Art, that's medieval, but you know, like fun historical fiction queer books. You know, what more could you want from that? Like I said, Infamous is my personal favourite, which is about our main character Eddie and her best friend Rose, and one day Eddie meets this famous poet, and he asks if her and her friend Rose want to come and stay in his old dilapidated Gothic castle with a load of other artists for a holiday, and obviously they say yes, and it's basically about all the debauchery and madness that they get up to during that time. Absolutely love this. There's amazing discussions about art, there is a lot of exploring sexuality as well. We have, I'm pretty sure Eddie is bi, I believe, and also Rose is lesbian, and I think there's some like non-binary rep in here as well from what I can remember. But yes, if you're ever gonna go for like a queer icon when it comes to authors, Lex is your person. I cannot rave about their books enough. Highly recommend any of them, so go and definitely check them out. Next up, we have a book that I finished quite recently, which is Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angress. This is a book I have taken quite a while to read, but I definitely enjoyed, and I guess this is also classed as historical fiction, which is kind of scary. Is it classed as historical fiction? It's written in 2000, well, it's set in 2011, so maybe it is. I don't know. But this book kind of takes place in two parts. It is about four main characters, and it is about, the first half is set in an art school. This is where we kind of get to know them and their relationships between one another, and then the second half takes place when they're all kind of exposed to the art scene in New York, and they kind of have to find their way. And there is a sapphic relationship between two of our main protagonists in this book, Karina and Louisa. It's like an artistic, almost kind of obsessive relationship, and it is very beautiful. It's a very beautiful book. There's lots of amazing discussions in it about art, about society, and all that sort of thing. It is a really beautiful book, and I know I have seen some people kind of talk about this and read it, and everyone seems to enjoy it. But yes, this is such a lovely, like a very raw and real book as well, and it's definitely something right up my street, especially if you're the kind of person that likes kind of like arty books and discussions about art. Next we have Kiss Her Once For Me by Alison Cottram, I think that's how you say it. And I read this last year. I discovered it last year, and this author wrote The Charm Offensive, which is quite a popular book, and I have not yet read it, and I really want to read it, especially after hearing so many good things about it. But I didn't know she came out with a second book fairly recently, within the past like year or two, and I read this during Christmas time last year. I just love this book. It was one of those ones where I just couldn't put it down. It was just like such like a warm, comforting book. You probably could read it at other times of the year, but it is definitely more of like Christmassy vibes. This book is about our main character Ellie, and this book takes place over 2 different Christmases. It has the before Christmas and the current Christmas, and it's basically about her relationship with this woman named Jack, and they basically met on Christmas Eve. Yes, it was on Christmas Eve, and they instantly form a connection. And then the other parts of the book take place a year after they met, and kind of why there was a bit of a fallout between them. The current Christmas they end up reconnecting because Ellie makes a deal with this man that she will basically marry him just so then that he can gain his fortune, and she doesn't realise that that man is Jack, the girl who she met last Christmas. He is her brother, and she doesn't realise that until she ends up going for a winter holiday in the Alps with his family and meets his family. So it's kind of that fallout, and you get to see kind of what happened at last Christmas and what, you know, how they're rekindling their relationship. I feel like I didn't describe that description of that very well, but honestly this was such a fun book, and I wasn't expecting this going into this book, but Ellie is demisexual, and I really wasn't expecting that, and that just warmed my heart so much to see some demi representation. I think I've only ever seen it in Radio Silence before, so it's really amazing to see it in this book as well. And also there is obviously lesbian representation, and yeah, this is just such a gorgeous, stunning, like queer Christmassy read. It's so beautiful, and even though it is about like this romantic relationship, it is also about Ellie like finding herself and standing up for herself and realising what she wants and not being afraid to go after it. So it's a really beautiful story in so many ways. So this is definitely like one of my faves on this list. I love them all, but this is definitely one of my personal favourites. And then the last 2 books that I have to recommend are actually graphic novels, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody ever talk about either of these graphic novels, so they definitely need some more love in this world. So the first one is How to Be Ace, a memoir of growing up asexual by Rebecca Burgess. And again, this is one that I discovered a few years ago. I've read this twice. This is an extremely special graphic novel to me. It's probably the most personal one to me on this list, book-wise. And this is basically, like it says, a memoir about our author, Rebecca, discovering their asexuality. And there's so many things I relate to on there. She probably can't see, but I do have quite a few tabs. And this starts from when Rebecca is in school right up to after leaving university and, you know, finding a job. And even though it is about them discovering their sexuality, it's also about them growing as a person and also as an artist, as art is something that they want to make a career out of. So it's just that beautiful mix of like discovering yourself in so many different ways. And it's so relatable, and I really enjoy the art style, but it comes in so many different ways. So there's just like little like snippets like that, and also at the end of each chapter it does have little like information things about like different types of asexuality and aromanticism, and kind of little bits about like the ace community in general, which I love, especially ones like this, I think, at the end, which isn't spoilery particularly, but like how to like, you know, react to somebody coming out as ace, which I think is very, very beautiful. So yes, like I said, a very special one to me personally, but one that I've never heard anybody talk about, and I feel like it definitely needs more hype. And the last graphic novel and the last book of this video is If You'll Have Me by Uni. And I think I did talk about this in a fairly recent video, I can't remember which one it was, but I discovered this, I think it only came out maybe last year, and this is just a cute sapphic romance. That's all it is really, and it is so beautiful. Like the story is gorgeous, but the art, like also stunning edges. But I don't know, let me see if I can find my one of my favourite scenes. Like, I just love the colour palette of this book. Like, look how stunning that is. Like, it is just such a gorgeous, gorgeous graphic novel. And yeah, I love this so much. I really hope this author comes out with some more in the future, because I really enjoyed it. It's just super cute, super fun, gorgeous, gorgeous art style, and like I said, I've never heard anybody talk about it, so it definitely deserves more love. So those are all the books that I wanted to recommend to you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed this video and maybe found a book that you have not heard of before that you would like to pick up. Like I said, I do adore all of these books, and I hope that you may pick one up and really enjoy it as well. Maybe see a little bit of yourself in it, maybe find a little bit of comfort and know that you are not alone, whether you are comfortable in your sexuality or you are still discovering and unsure. I hope that you see yourself in maybe one of these books, and it just brings you a little bit of comfort. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe if you have not already. I will leave my Instagram and Goodreads in the description down below if you would like to follow me on there and find more bookish content that you will not find on this channel. And also leave a comment down below of any queer book recommendations that you love and you would like to share with everybody below. If you have read any of these and your opinions on them, I would love to know as always. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and hopefully I will see you again very soon. Bye guys!